In this video, we're going to add a sound component to our trigger to show how to trigger some sound effects. And just as a reminder, so far we have a trigger volume that when we enter the trigger will enable a light and it'll turn on through our level blueprints. So let's add some audio to that. Now, the interesting thing about audio is we can play the sound effect from our asset, so we don't really need to put a sound effect from here, because if we have a location of an object and we know what sound file to play, then we can actually do it that way. And there's many ways to play sound effects. I just want to show you one option. All I need to do is if I go into my level blueprints, and we still want to turn on our light, but if I drag off of this, maybe the next thing I want to do is play sound at location. You could also play sound 2D, but in this case, I want to play sound at location. And you'll already see there's so many blueprint nodes and it's hard to remember them all. So it's helpful to start typing and remember some keywords that are associated with some of these blueprints. So you'll see in order for this to work, it needs a sound effect. So we can click through here and find one. And then we need a location to play it from. This yellow thing here is actually color-coded to a location, which for Unity users, you'll recognize this as a vector3 and XYZ value. So let's do this. Let's select a sound and I think an explosion. I don't have a good light turning on sound, but this will work. And then we want to give it a location. So the interesting thing here is I can play this from any location I want. I just need the actor and then I can get the location of that actor. And just to show you something, I could add another reference to the same point light in the scene. I could actually pull off of this if I wanted, or I could copy, so Control-C, Control-V, paste, and this is just a duplicate reference to the same object. So this is just a way to keep things tidy. It would be fine to pull off of this and do it right here too, but you don't want too many strings crossing your blueprints. I'm just going to duplicate this reference, or if I wanted to place an empty level object to define a location, I could do that too. It's all fine, all just options. So now let's get the world location from our point light object. If you drag off of this and you start typing in get world location, you'll see a few options here, light component, point light. It doesn't really matter which one, just choose one of them. And it will drill down into the component to get the get world location. And now you'll notice that this is color coded, but we can now connect our location, our position of our object into what it needs here, which is a position to play. But once we give it what it needs and we've given it a sound, we should be able to test this. But before I do that, I'm going to compile save. And I noticed that we may want to start labeling and commenting some of our nodes. So if I click on this node and I click this little toggle comment bubble, I've already typed this in, but if you click that and you type in this text right here, it'll say play the explosion sound. I already have some typed in for this as well. Turn on your light, test for the player. And this is much easier to read than trying to figure out what's going on with all this. So very easily, when our trigger is overlapped, test if it's the player. If it is, turn on our light, play the explosion sound. So I'm going to compile that, save, minimize, and we'll test it out. Hit play. Awesome. So this is something that we would refer to as feedback. If we want something in the level to be important and grab the player's attention, we want to give it a visual component and an audio component at the very least. So the light's turning on, we hear a sound effect, and we could play a cutscene, we could trigger an animation, and there's so many things you can do. But at this point, playing a sound effect should give you a lot of other ideas on things you could do, right? You could trigger some music when you enter a part of the hallway, or you could play an explosion sound when the animation makes the block topple over, or whatever else. But you should have a lot of options now that you can call sound effects from the blueprints. And don't forget, you can actually call it as 2D as well. We're playing from a location, but for something like music, you want to hear that no matter where you are, and that would be a 2D. But if you wanted to play from a specific spot, you want play sound at location.